When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
Where are you thinking on tariffs on Mexico, given these actions you're signing on the border?
Well, we're thinking in terms of 25% on Mexico and Canada because they're allowing vast numbers of people. Canada's a very bad abuser also. Vast numbers of people to come in and fentanyl to come in.
When do you think you would enact those?
I think February 1st.
Are you planning on giving notice of that?
I think we'll do it February 1st.
25% on both, sir?
On each.
On each.
Yeah.
That's Donald Trump yesterday. You know that old adage, can you walk and chew gum at the same time? Donald Trump proving yesterday he can sign executive orders and threaten Canada at the same time. Of course, it's a full court press in this country trying to respond to that threat of tariffs. Part of that response is the Prime Minister's Council on Canada-U.S. relations, and it's our pleasure to welcome a member of that council and also former premier of this province. Jean Charest is with us once again. Monsieur Charest, thanks for coming back on.
Thank you, Elias.
I want to start off with what you just heard, what we all just heard from President Trump. And he talked about the border, and like in Canada, tried to, with the situation with Mexico, he mentioned the border in that talk. I want to ask you if you believe that so much of this strife, so much of what we're going through right now could have been avoided if we had taken the border more seriously.
Honestly, Elias, I don't think so. I think the border for Mr. Trump is a pretext. We have the longest unguarded border in the world, land border in the world. That's always been our story. The border management changed radically after 9/11, where we had to have passports to travel between both countries and security was increased. And in fact, the American ambassador in Canada at the time, Paul Cellucci, said something that remains with us to this day. He said, from now on, security trumps trade, not to do a play on words. And that was the new reality of the relationship between Canada and the United States. After that, we did a border agreement that was very substantive. But right now, the border issue for the Americans is at the south, much more than the north. And if we want to talk about the border, we should talk about all these illegal guns that come into Canada from the United States. So if Mr. Trump wants to work on the border, albeit, let's do it. And please, do what you need to do to stop this illegal traffic of guns. That being said, is there drug trafficking? Yes. Is there illegal immigration? Yes. Can we manage it and do better? Yes, and we will. But the real issue is at another level for Mr. Trump, and it has to do with trade.
And on trade, let's talk a little bit about that and maybe how we ended up here, right? Because now we've ended up in this place where we got this, now it's a February 1st threat. I want to ask you again, with the decisions we've made over the last few years, economically and environmentally, have any of our policies in the last, 8, 9 years, 10 years, whatever you want to look at, have any of our policies put us in a worse position to deal with these threats?
Our policies have made us more vulnerable because we've always been highly dependent on the American economy for trade. I think, Elias, that we became complacent. We didn't make as much effort to diversify into other economies. And when I say that, I'm not talking about trade agreements, because we did do trade agreements and the governments did, and I did my share of that. The Canada-Europe trade agreement was my project. But our businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, have not been making enough of an effort to go elsewhere than the United States because it was very easy to be in the United States. The other part of it is infrastructure on energy. Alberta has a case to make that when they wanted to build pipelines east and west to be able to export to other markets than the United States, the rest of the country was not helpful. And we should have If we had to do it again, it's always easy to look back, but we should have made more of an effort to diversify our markets for oil and gas outside of the United States. We did not, and that puts us in a much more vulnerable position.
And with that in mind, Mr. Charest, I guess recognizing the position we're in, now we get to the response. I know if you've seen the comments that have come out in just the last little while from Yves-François Blanchet, leader of the Bloc Québécois, and he says the idea of cutting off, like if we're talking about a response, cutting off either Quebec electricity or Alberta oil to Americans, he says, quote, it would be a crazy idea and that we're playing with fire if we go down that path. Response-wise, I've heard that thrown out. We should cut off the supplies. What say you to that? What are you saying on the council?
Well, let's stay cool, Elias. And, take a deep breath, stay cool, make sure that we take a step back. When you're in a crisis like that, we have to stay in control of our own agenda. And we shouldn't be out there, making a hypothesis of what we could or could. We should be keeping our powder dry, regrouping. The federal government needs to lead on this, and the provinces need to contribute to that plan, and then determine what it is that we can do that's effective, sends the right message. I have I'll tell you what my intuition is, Elias, on Trump in Canada. He can make his comments, but he can only push it so far. There's no one in the United States, Elias, that has a thing on Canada. There's no one. The general public isn't going to believe in the United States that Canada is the problem. It just ain't going to happen. They know there's 400,000 people who cross the border every day. We know each other well. And Americans generally, it doesn't take much to make the case that, we're very good trading partners. We're good for each other and with each other. If you have a beef with trade, it isn't with us. It's with other countries than Canada.
We're with Jean Charest, the former Premier of Quebec, who's now on the Prime Minister's Council on Canada-U.S. relations. Mr. Charest, off the top of this hour during our newscast, we played some audio of the Prime Minister, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, talking about dollar-for-dollar matching tariffs. So I get the idea of let's stay cool, but it certainly seems like we are readying a pretty severe response if we're going to do dollar-for-dollar matching tariffs. Do you believe that's wise to go down that path?
That's certainly a scenario, Elias. So we first of all, we have to respond. And the response will be a response that will hurt American economic interests. It will also hurt us, Elias. In this game of tariffs, that's one of the hard realities is that you impose tariffs and it's harmful to your own economy. That's the what's so regrettable about this whole tit for tat story. But we have to respond, and there is the question: how do we respond? How do we do it? What products do we focus on, and how that'll be? And I'm not going to go into the details of that because there'll be conversations about different scenarios. But we need to be ready to respond and to respond effectively.
And also on the response, I'm wondering because one of the things that Donald Trump has said is bringing tariffs in. He's going to use that to pay for a big tax cut, massive tax, whatever word he uses, but he's going to use it for a tax cut. In the Canadian response, if we're going to go down a path of matching tariffs, should our response also include a tax cut for citizens in order to help them pay for an increase in prices?
All of that is hypothetical. We'll have to wait and see. But, his Minister of Finance, or equivalent of the Secretary of Treasury, they call him, his name is Besant, testified last week in front of the Senate on his hearing to be approved. And on tariffs said three things. There's three purposes to tariffs. The first one is level playing field. Someone is imposing a tariff on you on trade practices. We do it to level the playing field. A. B. He said it generates revenue. That's what Trump is thinking. So it does generate revenue. And three, it's a negotiating instrument, tool. So, and that's where Trump is. Now, if he does impose tariffs, he's going to hurt American consumers. He's going to increase inflation. He's going to make industry less competitive. He's going to increase the price of everything. So I can see where he'd say, well, we'll reduce taxes. I'm not sure it's going to be very effective. And I think Trump is running the high risk, Elias, of having a Liz Truss moment. And you may remember the British Prime Minister. She tabled a budget, reducing taxes and financing that through debt, and her markets collapsed. Well, you look at what he's doing on immigration, on tariffs, and other things. He's playing with fire. And so we need to stay very cool in regards. The other thing is that he has a growth agenda, which is in direct contradiction to tariffs. And the growth agenda is about reducing taxes, deregulating, reducing the size of government. These are all the things he wants to do, Mr. Trump. And imposing tariffs will do exactly the contrary. It will slow down economic growth, increase inflation, increase interest rates, and hurt American consumers.
And last question, Mr. Charest. I know you can't play all your cards in public. Nobody would want to. But what's our ace? What do you think? What's up our sleeve that maybe everyone already should know about that you think is our greatest leverage in this battle/discussion?
Our aces, and there's more than one, are all the things we have and that we supply to the United States that they are totally dependent on, and where they can't find an alternate source to supply them. Potash, there's energy, nickel, uranium. I mean, there's a whole host, a list of products, Elias, where they are very dependent on Canadian supply. And these are the things that Canada has that they need and they want.
Mr. Charest, I would love to be a fly on the wall of those meetings you and the other members of the council are going to be having over the next little while. Thank you so much for providing us a little bit of insight on what's happening there. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Elias.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. That's Jean Charest, of course, former Premier of Quebec and member of the Prime Minister's Council on Canada-U.S. relations.